Hey guys, we're going to finish up with the Austro-Hungarian Empire, and coming out of 1848, Austria is going to go through the different wars and overall see a huge change in their empire with the Habsburgs at the top. Um, this is Franz Joseph I. After the Revolution of 1848, Austria was trying to establish themselves as a modern state, and Franz Joseph I is the emperor at the time. The capital city is Vienna, and by this time, Vienna is modernizing, it's industrializing, and it's instituting different types of infrastructures, railways, roads, canals, and it's trying to catch up with the Western European states. In addition, at this time, Franz Joseph is ruling as an absolute monarch, and so it's quite different from a lot of the movements of nationalism, liberalism that are coming out that have been establishing changes, but in Austria there hasn't been that change. So how do the liberals feel? How do those of all the different ethnic minorities within the Austrian Empire, how do they see it? Well, they see Franz Joseph as a roadblock, and they believe that he is stopping them from gaining all of their political and social rights that they've been demanding for decades, okay, for centuries now. So we're going to see that because of the Austrian-Prussian War, the Austrian government suffered a great defeat. It had to address the issue that has always been at hand. How are we going to resolve all of the ethnic minorities and satisfy them, because they are all looking to have their own nation states. The Hungarians and the Czechs continue to demand for self-determination, and if they could not have independent states, then at least they were seeking for a semi-autonomous state, which means having some political influence in the government. Okay, by losing to Prussia in 1866, this is where they had to make a compromise with the Magyars, which are the Hungarians. And so Franz Joseph is going to become king of Hungary, and you're going to have a dual monarchy. You have a king of Austria, a king of Hungary, and then you have an emperor at the top. And so the emperor is the one that kind of connects both of the kingdoms together. He has ultimate authority over the both, and they share the same foreign policy. So this compromise, we can call it Ausgleich, and this means compromise, and this comes in 67, and now we have officially the Austro-Hungarian Empire, and Ausgleich. This event allowed for Hungarians to have their own parliament, their own meeting assembly, the legislative assembly. They have their own cabinets, they have their own administrative system, and they are supporting Austria. They share one imperial army as an empire, and they share also a imperial government amongst the both of them too. So they're independent equal states, but they are still under one Habsburg emperor. The results of merging the empire, or splitting / merging, is where Austria is going to assimilate the Hungarian people, and they're no longer seen as the minority and second-class citizens. They are no longer in opposition with Austrians, but they can work together. And this actually allowed the government to be a lot more efficient in how they made their laws. Okay, now how did it actually look like in total? Well, the government was not integrated, so what that means is that there are still differences amongst the ethnic groups, and though you have the assimilation of the people, one huge problem, a logical and practical problem, is the language. And the language used in government was what brought some divisions. In Bohemia, you have the issue whether the schools should use Czech or German as a language, and a lot of debate has been come over that. Okay, and so typically it's always been German because that's what Austrians speak, but now Czech is a growing language that needs to be addressed, whether or not the government will use it. Okay, and so a lot of conservatives and socialists are trying to just diffuse and divert this whole tension between the ethnic groups and saying, hey, we have economic issues we need to resolve. But still, this is a huge underlying issue that Austria-Hungary needs to figure out. Okay. Yes. Universal male suffrage will not come until 1907. So what this means is that there's still oppression in terms of who can say what the government should be like. They're not voting. They're not actively participating in government. Okay. And there's now a growing feeling of anti-Semitism. Okay, so anti-Semitism is the prejudice against the Jewish people, and it became really popular in Austria because the Jewish population began to grow more and more because Jews obtained full legal equality in 1867, and so by 1900 we're going to see that Jews make up 10% of the population, and once they are legally equal, right? They always been persecuted and mistreated as lower citizens. These Jewish people are beginning to find success in Hungary, and so we're going to see that there are some Jewish business people, and what are they successful in? Well, one thing we do know is that they begin to open up banks and become traders. And then there are all these different types of Jewish artists and intellectuals and scientists, such as Sigmund Freud. And many German extremists, sorry, I'll go back real quick. Many German extremists charge the Jews for controlling the economy and really corrupting German culture. And this leaves them to be kind of like the scapegoat that they seeing in their culture being changed by the different movements that are becoming more modern. They're coming through some famous Jewish individuals. Changes. Okay, so because the Magyar are in power, they have the dominance in Hungary, and even though they have overall a larger demographic in Hungary, the issue is that there are still other ethnicities. Okay, so not only that, but you have the Magyar nobility, and this is where they are dominating the peasants and also the minority populations. This is going to last ever since from the Compromise in 1867 all the way to in 1914 with World War I. The wealth dictates kind of your status in Hungary, and this is where only the wealthiest 25% of adult males have the right to vote. And so new laws that are made are in favor of the Magyars and not for any of the other ethnic groups. And so they're going to say, we're going to make Magyar language in schools and in government as necessary. But then you have the Croatians, then you have the Romanians, and all the other Slavic people. And so all the Slavic people have the shared kind of same ethnic roots, and they kind of developed this idea of Pan-Slavism. Pan-Slavism, and they actually were seeking for a third monarchy, so like a tri-monarchy instead of a dual one, but that was not acknowledged. Okay, so what ends up happening is by 1871, the Habsburg leadership is going to no longer be able to control or resolve all the ethnic divisions within the country, which is going to be a problem. It's going to be a growing problem that's going to lead them into World War I. And so all these minorities are going to continue to resent their leaders, because now they're saying, you open up the doors to the Hungarians, but what about the rest of us? Okay, so unlike the other major countries that we've studied, okay, in this section, nationalism strengthened those states through unifying them, right, giving them a national identity and a nation state, right? But with Austria-Hungarian Empire, we're seeing that nationalism is actually making it weaker, and it's going to eventually be destroyed because of the growing nationalism. All right, so that's pretty much it. It's a very short lecture, and we're going to finish up and jump into realism tomorrow.